So, but that's an interesting theory, Alice. Let's interview her husband. Thank you. Not sure I agree with it, but I want to digest that one. Denise in Calumet, Michigan. Hey, Denise, what's up?
Well, I have to tell you, Tom, I called Jack Bergman, my congressman, who's Republican, and I'm not, many, many times and never heard from him. And finally,
is he your U.S. congressman or your state representative?
He's our state representative. He's in Washington. Anyway.
So he's your federal U.S. congressman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I'm sorry. Yeah. Anyway, I called him so many times, and finally, about the Social Security issue, I called and I said, "I know I'm not going to hear from you. You probably know I'm not Republican, so I don't expect to hear from you." And now I have a guy named Mike from his Washington, D.C. office that is assigned to call me whenever I call.
Really?
Yes.
Is that good?
Every time I guess that's good, because he tries to tell me things that, and I give him my opinion, but he tries to tell me that, Jack is fighting for our Social Security, and 90% of his constituents up here are probably on Social Security or ready to be. And, it's just kind of like, I've got this guy and he calls me now, but I have not heard from him since I called about what might happen with our election and my concerns about Trump messing with our election. I have not heard yet back from him on that one. So we'll see.
Well, it's a good thing that you've got even a Republican congressman is actually doing constituent services, that he's got somebody on the ball to call you. That's good. Denise, keep us up to date. That's a great start. Dave in Federal Way, Washington. Hey, Dave, what's up?
Hey, not too much, Tom. I called about Trump's taxes, but I'd like to say something about the Supreme Court. First, over the weekend, I heard a liberal and a moderate, quote-unquote moderate, talk about the loss of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and how, what they thought of that. And, of course, the liberal was saying how tragic it was, it couldn't have come at a worse time, etc. But then the so-called moderate said, yes, it's tragic. But if Ruth Bader Ginsburg had resigned when Obama was president, Obama could have appointed a liberal like Merrick Garland. Did you see the trickery there? Merrick Garland is not a liberal. And see, this is what causes a lot of problems with people, because that sounds so reasonable. All right, but
Merrick Garland was the choice of Utah Republican Senator Orrin Hatch. He was the one who recommended Merrick Garland to Obama, because Obama said, it's late in my term. I've got this case. I don't want to make it huge and contentious. So, and it's Scalia's seat, so it really should be a moderate. Who do you suggest? And that's where it came to. But with regard to Trump's taxes, Dave, I think I'm concerned that he's going to spin, I know he's going to spin this by saying, I'm a smart guy. Nobody likes to pay taxes. I figured out a way to pay less taxes. And I think probably most Republicans and most of the people in his base will think that that's a wonderful thing. That's why I'm not focusing on how little he paid in income taxes. I don't care what he pays in income taxes. I know that you can game that, I'm concerned about how much he owes, that he owes $400 million to somebody, and we have no idea who it is. Back to you, Dave.
Well, yeah, and I know the story. I know you know the story about Mark Burnett and the Celebrity Apprentice outtakes, but I've been obsessed with it. Okay, and you're probably a lot smarter than me on that. But Mark Burnett told Thom Arnold that he didn't want to release the outtakes of Trump saying the N-word because it would make Trump more popular. Now, this was driving poor Thom Arnold crazy, but I get what Mark Burnett is saying. And I think it's the same with the taxes. Look, Russia's behind this. All right, we created an anti-tax revolution in the former Soviet states, all right, according to the KGB. We did that. And they are getting payback. They're getting payback by pushing racism, and they're pushing tax contempt among right-wingers, because they know, look, Tom, most people in America not most, but a lot don't even know the purpose of taxes. They don't understand that it makes you a good citizen. They think it's some sort of Ponzi scheme by the government and stuff. But I'd like to get your take on that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. And it's also, Putin is on record as saying that he thought the biggest tragedy to ever befall his country was the breaking up of the Soviet Union, and he blames it on the United States, perhaps correctly. And so, is this revenge? Is the Trump presidency revenge? I think there's a chance that that's the case. Dave, thanks for the call. Wow, what a day. We'll be right back. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Right-wing Republicans and corporate Democrats have become a pathetic bunch of no-can-do Nancys. Faced with an economy reeling from the plutocratic policies that these same lawmakers push down upon us, they are now whimpering that America is too weak to meet the
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are CarShield, America's #1 auto protection company. More information at carshield.com, code TOM. CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. The Clean Phone Pro, phone sanitizer and charger. More info at thenewdealshop.com. Boll and Branch Sheets, crafted for the common good. More info at Boll, B-O-L-L, and Branch.com, code TOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More information at expressvpn.com/Tom. And TEEF, T-E-E-F, Smarter Pet Dental Health. For more information, teefhealth.com, code TOM.
Our book today in the Thom Hartmann Book Club is Health Justice Now, Single Payer and What Comes Next by Timothy Faust. And this is from the introduction. A secret scream rings through America. It rings down the sterile fluorescent hallways of our hospitals. It rings over our rural towns and our native reservations. It rings through our prisons, the bellies of our great cities. It rings in our farms, in our fields, our streets, and our sewers, our bodies, and our blood. And we are cursed to never hear it clearly until, at last, we realize it has been our own mouth screaming and we are lost. A child born today inherits, in that secret, a new American squalor, the skeletal remains of the American cities, the bleached bones of the American suburbs. This secret is a birthright of continual exploitation, pumped for labor and drained of cash and then punished for the resulting suffering. Punished for being hungry, punished for being sick, punished for being pregnant, punished for being poor, punished for being black or brown, punished for being queer, for being unlucky, for being. At the base of that suffering is lodged a little truth, like a knot in the stomach. In America, sickness makes you poor, and poorness makes you sick. This is a book about that relationship and why it happens, and why it's unnecessary, and what we can do to fix it. The cosmic whirling of God's great slot machine has not determined that some people are fated to suffer while others flourish. We have the resources to take care of everyone, and yet we refuse to do so. Your medical debt and medical bills are unnecessary, but we have chosen to make them necessary. These are structural problems with structural causes, and many of them share roots in how we pay for health care. This is a book about health care and health finance. They are different. Healthcare is anything that helps you stay safe and healthy. It's a kind of freedom from and within your own body. Health finance is the method by which we as a country pay for that freedom and by which we decide who gets to have it and who doesn't. Healthcare is more than what happens to you in the hospital. Healthcare is whether your home makes you sick, or your food makes you sick, or your environment makes you sick, or whether you have enough money to afford the things that keep you healthy. In America, the structure of corporate health care has convinced us that some people deserve health care and some people don't. This is a book about that corporate health finance, about private insurance and private insurers. For half a century, they've convinced us that they're the only things that keep us or could ever keep us from the utter financial ruination of illness. They've sold us different inadequate insurance plans and persuaded us that this is a form of great liberty, while chipping away at our freedoms for profit and holding our bodies and our children's bodies hostage. This is a book about single-payer health care, a health finance model in which we pool our abundant collective resources to provide health care to all people. It is a common model across the world. As we will discuss in this book, we have the potential not just to enact a single-payer program in America, but to build the greatest healthcare program among any so-called developed democracy. Here is my profession of faith. I believe beyond any doubt that single-payer is demonstrably sound and imminently feasible. I believe a properly ambitious and well-structured single-payer program will do more than any other American social program of this generation to soothe the burns, to resuscitate the spirit, to nourish the moral will of the American people. I believe it will loosen the loathsome manacles of American health finance, an exploitative institution that profits by plundering from us our own bodily autonomy, and that anchors a larger exploitation that holds those whom we love as captive leverage to guarantee our servitude to abusive employers or domestic partners, to those who seek to dominate us both in the office and in the hospital. I believe this nation owes its people, whose labor has created its rich banquet, the safety and agency of healthcare. I believe this healthcare is greater in scope than that which happens upon an operating table. I believe that housing, food, income, and more, the components of basic human dignity, are healthcare. And I believe our work is that of striving toward justice for all people. And I therefore believe, I have to believe, that single-payer healthcare is our moral imperative. Single-payer is our tool. Single-payer is our weapon. Single-payer is our first step. But single-payer on its own is not the goal. This book is about health justice. Healthcare is personal, so I want to start this book personally by introducing two friends of mine, Steve Way and Kyle Kolick. They're two guys about my age, I'm 30, who live in North New Jersey. They're sweet, gentle people, and probably the most charismatic pair of friends I've met in my entire life. They make me laugh until my face hurts, and we like watching pro wrestling together. They're also being utterly broken by our American healthcare system, and it's keeping them from living their lives. Steve has muscular dystrophy. The muscle and tissues that hold his body together are eating themselves. He's doing pretty good, all things considered. He beat his original life expectancy of 18, and now probably has a long life ahead of him. Steve needs a wheelchair to move and a ventilator to help him breathe. The book, Health Justice Now, Timothy Faust. Yeah.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Oh, the Brad Parscale story continues to get weird. He testified before Congress in response to questions. By the way, welcome back to the third hour of our program. In response to questions from Representative Jackie Speer of California, if he was targeting people by race. And we now know this from this massive leak that's coming out of the UK that, in fact, the Republican Party, the Trump campaign specifically, was targeting people by race. And he lied. He lied before Congress. So maybe that's why he's threatening suicide. God only knows. Excuse me. But anyhow, there's a lot going on. And at the front and center is Amy Coney Barrett on her way to the Supreme Court, having pre-proclaimed that she's going to, that she thinks John Roberts certainly should have struck down Obamacare in its entirety back in the day, right, a couple of years ago when he had the chance. Dr. Sam Metz is with us on on this topic and broadly healthcare in general. He's a member of Physicians for National Health Program, PNHP, and Mad as Hell Doctors. He's a retired anesthesiologist. SamuelMetz.com or PNHP.org. The website's PNHP is the Twitter handle as well. Dr. Metz, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Tom. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. It's so nice to have you with us. So, where do we go with this? I mean, first of all, just very quickly, kind of for the record, it's I realize probably most of my listeners know this and could recite it to us, but let's just recap very, very quickly how stupid and wasteful our current healthcare system is and what benefit we would get from a Medicare for All type single-payer system like Canada has.
Stupid and inefficient is being gracious to our healthcare system. We have the most inefficient healthcare system ever created. We spend twice as much money as the average industrialized country on almost every measure of outcome. We are at or near the bottom. It's destroying families. It's destroying businesses. We're the only country that has medical bankruptcies, and we're the only country that has labor management disputes over health care benefits because we're the only country that expects our employers to provide health care. Any country provides better care to more people for less money than we do. Not just Canada, France, Germany, Japan, Australia, Malta, Spain, Andorra, they all do better than we do. We need a big change, and we need to emulate them.
Yeah. Let's learn from what works. So, Dr. Metz, if Barrett is on the court and the court hears the Obamacare case and strikes down Obamacare, it occurs to me that may actually be a good thing because, Obamacare is this kludge that was put together by the Heritage Foundation and put into place in Massachusetts by Republican Governor Mitt Romney, back in the day. And it really just, yes, it extended service to, in healthcare to 20 million people. And had it not been gutted by John Roberts in the Supreme Court, it would have expanded Medicaid, which would have been a good thing. But still, it's a partial remedy that is still shoveling literally an unnecessary $1 trillion a year into that industry. So are you guys preparing for what might happen if Obamacare gets struck down? Is like, hey, this is the opportunity to promote Medicare for all, and also are you preparing a constitutional argument against, Amy Barrett's argument that the Constitution doesn't say anything about health care. You didn't have health care during the founding generation, and so if we're going to be originalists and we have to run America according to the standards of 1787, I mean, she's already said she's okay with separate but equal, which is not quite as bad as 1787. But what do we do?
She could set the country back 200 years to the good old days before electricity and antibiotics. For health care, the Affordable Care Act gave millions of Americans more access to health care by expanding Medicaid. But if you have got private insurance, you're worse off than you were before the Affordable Care Act. It makes America far more dependent on private health insurance than it ever was before. If the Affordable Care Act is struck down, it means millions of Americans will lose their Medicaid. It also means that everyone will appreciate how desperate our situation has become and how we need to replace private health insurance with a tax-funded, single-payer, universal care plan. Anyone can see any physician. Physicians are paid on the value of their service, not like they are now on the value of their insurance. It's a big change. Every other country has a universal care plan, and we don't. They all provide better care to more people for less money than we do. The Affordable Care Act was a giant step backwards. No matter how you cut it, it changed the rules, but it's still, healthcare in America is still a zero-sum game. The only way for one person to get more health care for less money is someone else to get less health care for more money. You use the key word efficiency. The United States spends more money on just administration than any other country, 3 times the normal. If we could cut our administrative costs as a single-payer system, we could pay for the unmet health care needs of the United States with less money than we're paying now. We may have to relabel it, but if I'm the head of a family, I want my cost to go down, my access to go up, and I want better care. You can label it as premiums, out-of-pocket payments, taxes. It's all my money, and that has to go down. Quality has to go up. Access has to go up. Every other country has done it. We need to follow.
What's your sense, as a member of PNHP, and PNHP is, very active in this field. What is your sense of how or where this is at with regard to Congress? What, your polling of the Democratic caucus in particular in the House and Senate. I mean, this is where, like Joe Lieberman famously, because he was in the insurance companies had given him more than $1.2 million. He said, okay, no more public, no public option. What's your sense of where people are at right now? We've got about a minute and a half here until we hit a hard break.
Americans are desperate for a big change. Doing more of the same is just not going to cut it anymore. It's uncertain if Congress has the fortitude to turn their back on the American healthcare industry and create something better. The American healthcare industry is the largest industry in the United States, the largest industry in the world. We spend 3 times on healthcare what the Saudi Arabians get in gross revenue. It takes a lot of determination to move away from that. It's possible that Congress may pass a states' rights healthcare super waiver that would allow individual states to try their own universal care plans and move state by state, much like Canada did. We have many models, and maybe the states should lead if the U.S. Congress won't.
Now, Vermont elected a governor. I mean, Peter Welch, as I recall, got elected governor based on this platform. The Vermont legislature pushed it through, but he was unable to implement it because there were only 600,000 people in the state. It's just too small, but California could. Did they need a waiver?
First, Vermont never implemented its plans because it never created the tax plan to replace what people paid in premiums.
Right.
We can do just fine with 600,000 people, and yes, federal law now makes it impossible for a universal care plan for a state, but maybe they can change that.
Okay, great. I would like to dig into it. It frustrates me when I hit a break, too. I'd like to dig into what exactly stops that, but we can do that offline. Dr. Sam Metz with PNHP.org. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you very much.
Hartmann Program.
My pleasure. Glad to have you with us. We'll be right back. Stick around. We'll be right back. And welcome back, Deborah in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Hey, Deborah, what's up?
Hi, Tom. I want to get back on Donald Trump's finances, and I just read a book. I think you may have actually previewed it on your show called Dark Towers, and it's about Deutsche Bank, which is a German bank, and their business with Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump ran through all of the American banks, and they would no longer lend to him because he just, he didn't pay them. And so he had to go out of the country to get loans because he lives on loans. He doesn't actually really earn as much as he lives on. And so Deutsche Bank is also known to be a money laundering bank for the Russian oligarchs, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the last, he also stiffed Deutsche Bank, too, but the last actual loan he got, he had to take out on his personal recognizance and swear that he would pay it back personally out of his assets. Well, the guy who wrote it suggested, now that was like, it's more now, but back then in the book it was like $345 million, which is unbelievable. And they suggested, but they did not have documentation for the fact that Russia and the oligarchs, which launder money through Deutsche Bank, promised to pay back his personal money that he owed. And, I'm sure that's why he never says anything about Putin, because Putin controls the oligarchs. So, yeah, that was a very interesting book. If you haven't read it, you should.
I have read parts of it, and yeah, we did a book report of it on this program, and that's the big question: is which of the Russian oligarchs backed up Trump's loans, and we just don't know. But it's a great question, Deborah. Thank you for that. Tim in Aloha, Oregon. Hey, Tim, what's on your mind?
Well, there's a lot of things, Tom, but I was going to talk about a couple other things. But the doctor you're just talking to, my family is, or my wife and sons are on the Affordable Care Act, and it's been a great program. It took no time to sign up if you know what you're doing. Basically, whether it's Social Security or any number of things that I've signed up for over the years, if you have the proper documentation and you're not lying and making grievous errors, there's really no problem signing up. It's been a godsend, as they can say, in terms of taking care of us. We've done real well with that program. Good. I was on Providence Healthcare for years, 20 years with a flawless payment record, and they made nothing but errors. And then they actually canceled me, didn't even tell me they did. So it was scary stuff. But, this whole thing with this Barrett, I don't think people understand the significance of what's going on and what can happen, And the trouble is with Trump, it's that old in for a penny scenario. Mm-hmm. Once he got elected, the Republicans were making excuses about, give him a chance. He doesn't have any political background. Then when it got worse, they knew that their homophobic, racist, misogynistic background, the people who were voting for him were going to continue to support them if they stuck with him. You see what I mean? So that's the situation. That's the situation we're in, and one of the most important days in the history of this country is coming up tomorrow, as far as Democrats and progressives are concerned. Because they're going to have to forget about the complacency and get out and vote. Although there are four words that can solve all the world's problems. You know what those are, don't you, Tom? Our thoughts and prayers. That'll take care of everything.
Right. Thanks, Tim. We'll be right back. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. On the line with us is the comms director for Fix Our Senat. FixOurSenat.org is the website. And is it Eli or Eli Zupnik?
It's Eli. Thank you for having me on.
Eli, I'm so sorry. I was trying to yell at yell to our staff. Great to have you with us, Eli. You said, right?
That's right.
Right. FixOurSenat.org is the website, and the Twitter handle is Eli Zupnik, ELIZUPNICK. And Eli, tell us, what do we need to do to fix our Senate?
That's a great question. So anyone who right now is working on issues or working to change the way the government looks in November needs to understand that unless we fix our Senate, unless we eliminate the filibuster as a tool that Mitch McConnell can use to block anything from the minority, then anything that we're working on right now is just not going to happen. If you care about the climate crisis, if you care about gun safety, if you care about economic inequality, immigration, none of these issues can move. We can't make progress on anything unless we fix the Senate and unless the filibuster is eliminated. So what Fix Our Senate is trying to do is help people understand that connection, that we are all very focused on November. We're all very focused on doing what we need to do right now. We see right now how broken the Senate is, with McConnell trying to jam through the Supreme Court nominee in an unprecedented way. So we're making sure people understand that it's not enough to just change things in November. We also need to change the Senate so that we can actually fix our government restore our democracy and make progress on these issues.
Eli, as the comms director for FixOurSenate.org, I'm guessing you know more about the Senate history than I do. My understanding, but I can't cite an authoritative source for this, and I'm not sure where I learned it, but I've just had it in my head for many, many years, is that the filibuster is kind of an extension of the actual Congress. I believe it was a rule that they had passed. I don't think it was a law, that slavery could not be mentioned on the floor of the House, that provoked John Quincy Adams, after he left the White House, after he left the presidency, to run for Congress and take a seat in the House of Representatives just so he could bring up the issue of slavery every single day, much to the chagrin of his peers. And that the filibuster in the Senate was similarly a process that was designed to prevent basically discussion or action on things like integration or civil rights and that sort of thing. Is there a larger or broader meaning to the filibuster? When did it come into being? And am I correct in assuming that the biggest piece of fixing our Senate, subordinate only to filling it with Democrats, would be, a majority Democrats, would be to blow up the filibuster?
That's exactly right. So many defenders of the filibuster like to act as if this was something that was always a part of the Senate, that it was something that was meant to be a part of the Senate. But as you noted, this was something that was created, it was invented later on in the 1860s and through the Jim Crow era to fight back against civil rights legislation. Southern Democrats in the Senate used it to block civil rights bills after civil rights bills. Over 200 anti-lynching bills were blocked using the filibuster. There's a famous filibuster by Senator Strom Thurmond in 1957 where he filibustered for 24 hours to make sure that the civil rights bill that passed was a weakened version. And then in 1964, of course, President Johnson was finally able to break a filibuster and pass the 1964 Civil Rights Act. But you're absolutely right that for years the filibuster was used as what President Obama called a Jim Crow relic, that it was something used to perpetuate Jim Crow, to perpetuate white supremacy, and to make sure that civil rights legislation didn't pass. That we saw that through the 60s when it was finally beaten back, and now it's returned from Mitch McConnell, used most often by Mitch McConnell as a tool of pure partisan obstruction to make sure that the new Voting Rights Act doesn't pass, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act doesn't pass, to make sure that healthcare can't get expanded, immigration reform doesn't move. So you are absolutely right that, of course, it is a major priority to get Mitch McConnell out of the role of majority leader and to have Democrats in power and able to make these changes. But then it is just as important to make sure that they could actually do those things. And that means not letting McConnell veto things from the minority by just filibustering popular legislation like he's done time and again.
So my understanding is that the filibuster is built into the Senate rules. The Constitution gives both the House and the Senate the power to basically write their own rules, how they work, what their parliamentary procedures are, all that sort of thing. And that the filibuster is in the Senate rules, that the Senate rules can be changed with a simple majority. The rules themselves are not subject to a filibuster. And that if we get 51 Democratic seats, or even 50 if we have a Democrat in the White House and a Democratic vice president who could break a tie, then we can blow up the filibuster in the rules. Do I have that right?
That's exactly right. So
is there a consensus across the Democratic caucus about this?
There is a growing consensus. There are still those who are reluctant, and that is part of why we're trying to raise awareness and make sure people understand what's at stake. The Democrats in 2013 took some steps to reform the filibuster when Republicans were obstructing every one of President Obama's nominees. Leader Reid made some progress in the right direction. He is now calling for even more progress. Then Leader McConnell, as we all remember, changed the rules again to get Gorsuch and Kavanaugh onto the Supreme Court with a simple majority. So there is absolutely a precedent for changing the Senate rules with a simple majority, especially when we're dealing with a level of obstruction the likes of which we've never seen before. So more and more Democrats are understanding this. What's happening right now, what Mitch McConnell is doing right now with the Supreme Court vacancy is really shining a spotlight on the obstruction. And I encourage folks to go to fixoursenate.org, and /live. We're having an event this Wednesday with Elizabeth Warren and Jeff Merkley, and folks can tune in and learn much more about that.
That should be absolutely great. FixOurSenate.org. Eli Zupnik. Eli, thanks so much for dropping by. Great talking with you.
Absolutely. Happy to.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
We'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls, principally your calls, right after this.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
In our book club today, our book is Border Wars, Inside Trump's Assault on Immigration by Davis and Scheer. This is from the prologue on page 5. Donald John Trump never meant for a giant wall across the entire southwest border to be the totem of his presidential campaign or the icon of his presidency. And he certainly never. Our book today in the Thom Hartmann Book Club is Under the Influence, Putting Peer Pressure to Work by Robert H. Frank. And I'm reading from the prologue. That we are more closely connected to one another than most of us realize is an old idea. An important variation dates from 1929, when Hungarian writer Frigyes Karinthy published a short story entitled Chains. Two of the story's main characters speculate that any two living people can be connected by a chain involving no more than 5 acquaintances. That some such chains exist is hardly surprising, since most of us can think of people in distant locations to whom we're connected through a small number of intermediaries. The man bites dog aspect of Karinthy's conjecture is that almost any two people, A and E, could be linked by a chain like A knows B, B knows C, C knows D, who knows E. One of the first systematic attempts to test this claim came in the 1960s with a series of experiments by the psychologist Stanley Milgram. In it, he sent packages containing a small booklet to 96 people chosen at random from the Omaha, Nebraska telephone directory. His cover letter asked them to try to forward the booklet to a specific residence of Boston, Massachusetts, through a chain of personal acquaintances. He told them the name and address of the Boston resident, that he worked as a stockbroker, and that the first person in their chain should be somebody they knew on a first-name basis. Milgram also advised them to choose someone they believed, presumably based on the target's location and occupation, could be socially closer to the target than they were themselves. Subsequent recipients in the chain were asked to forward the same instructions. Many of the Omaha recipients undoubtedly tossed Milgram's booklet in the trash, so it's remarkable that the Boston target received 18 of the 96 packages. The average number of links in the 18 chains was 5.9. But the now familiar expression 6 degrees of separation would not gain broad currency until many years later, when John Guare's play by that name premiered on Broadway in 1990. The concept became a meme in full when 4 Albright College students introduced 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon in 1994, a game designed to measure the professional proximity of an actor, living or dead, to the American film star Kevin Bacon. An actor has a Bacon number of 1, for example, if he or she appeared in the same film with Bacon. Someone who appeared in a film with another actor who appeared in a film with Bacon has a Bacon number of 2, and so on. The average Bacon number is 2.95 among actors who have one. In that group, even the actor most distant from Bacon, William Rufus Shafter, has a Bacon number of only 7. Shafter, a Union Army officer during the Civil War, appeared in 2 films in 1898. For academics who study social connectedness, the 6 degrees concept gained little traction until 1998. That's when the sociologist Duncan Watts and the mathematician Steve Straga published their landmark paper, Collective Dynamics of Small World Networks in Nature. In the years since then, this paper has provided the mathematical foundation for the analytical tools that social scientists have been using with such remarkable success to study how ideas and behaviors spread through populations like infectious diseases. It has already been cited by other scholars more than 38,000 times and is one of the few papers ever published to be among the most widely cited works in multiple disciplines. In his 1976 book, The Selfish Gene, the evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins coined the term meme, which Webster now defines as an idea, behavior, style, or usage that spreads from person to person within a culture. The meme is to cultural transmission, Dawkins argued, as the gene is to biological transmission. One of Charles Darwin's central insights was that natural selection favors genetic variations that enhance the individual organism's ability to survive and reproduce. Much of the time, the same variations also benefit larger groups, but often not. For example, an inclination to cheat when no one's looking might benefit individuals, but widespread cheating almost always makes matters worse for groups. It is the same with memes. The memes that propagate most successfully are often ones that benefit both individuals and groups. But here too, not always. As the legal scholar Jeffrey Stake has argued, ideas should not be treated as inert products, but as living things that sometimes exert some influence over their environment. Some of the ideas are more adept at surviving than others, and the ones that survive will not necessarily be good for humans. It is often hard to evaluate whether a specific behavior even qualifies as a meme, and if so, whether its consequences on balance are positive or negative. Yet sometimes the evidence is clear. We know, for example, that the strongest predictor of whether people will take up smoking is the proportion of their close friends who smoke. Smoking is thus clearly a meme. The negative health consequences of smoking are also conclusively documented, and most smokers themselves express regret over having started. By definition, then, smoking unambiguously qualifies as a socially destructive meme. On the other side of the ledger, we have compelling evidence that the adoption of photovoltaic solar panels is both socially contagious and almost uniformly positive in terms of environmental consequences. Accordingly, few would object to calling the practice a socially beneficial meme. Adam Smith, widely considered the father of economics, is often cited in defense of the claim that competitive markets produce the greatest good for the greatest number. The book is Under the Influence by Robert H. Frank. So there's a new paper out from Breakthrough, the National Center for Climate Restoration in Australia. This is one of these papers that, companies buy these things, governments buy them from these think tanks. This is done by a bunch of military experts. One of these guys actually was also the chairman of the Australian Coal Association and chief executive of the Australian Institute of Company Directors. The bottom line, and I'll just get to it real quick, even for 2 degrees Celsius warming, more than 1 billion people may need to be relocated. And in high-end scenarios, the scale of destruction is beyond our capacity to model, with a high likelihood of human civilization coming to an end. A good recap, a good summary. They do offer a solution. It's a radical Marshall-style program. You can check out the entire thing on our special, kind of members-only or, for our supporters video over at thomhartmann.com. You can check it out, get the whole thing. So check it out. Just a couple of quick things here I want to share with you, and then then I'll pick up your phone calls. The journalist Anita Kumar wrote a piece for Politico in which she says that it's been a full year that Trump and the Republicans have been planning to use the courts to steal the election, like what happened in the year 2000. And she writes, dozens of lawyers from 3 major law firms have been hired. Thousands of volunteer attorneys and poll watchers across the country have been recruited. Republicans are preparing pre-written legal pleadings that can be hurried to the courthouse the day after the election as wrangling begins over close results and a crush of mail-in ballots. Attorneys from non-battleground states, including California, New York, and Illinois, are being dispatched to more competitive areas and trained on local election laws. She says, in total, it means the Republican Party will have thousands of people on hand to shape every element of voting, both on Election Day and in the days thereafter. It's a massive undertaking, one the RNC calls its largest election year effort ever. And it's the one that could determine the winner of the pandemic-beset 2020 election. Now, that's kind of the bad news. Here's the good news. Democrats have launched their own gargantuan effort, doubling their efforts since 2016. They've amassed a team to educate voters, respond to charges of voter suppression, and counter foreign interference and misinformation, according to the Biden campaign. That effort is being led by Dana Remus, Biden's general counsel, and Bob Bauer, a former White House counsel during the Obama administration who joined the campaign full-time this summer. Michael Gwynn, a spokesperson for Biden's campaign, told Politico, quote, "The Biden campaign has assembled the biggest voter protection program in history." So, what do they say? Good news and bad news? And on Friday, this thing broke, and it was a big story actually on Friday, and then it kind of died over the weekend. But Bill Barr, the Attorney General, was pointing out that there were these 9 ballots that were in the trash outside of a polling place. And oh my God, and by the way, 7 of those ballots were marked for Donald Trump. Oh my God, this has got to be it. The the Democrats are trying to steal the election, was the implication. And it turns out that what had happened was the Republicans in Pennsylvania had filed a lawsuit saying that if the envelope in which a ballot arrived was opened in a way that would allow the person who opened the envelope to see the ballot, without the security envelope inside, all that kind of stuff, then that ballot was automatically considered spoiled and had to be thrown away. Now, the Republicans wanted this to be the rule because that meant that more mail-in ballots would get thrown away because people don't always mail them back in the official envelopes. And that's what apparently happened here. These were, in fact, they may have been overseas ballots from the military, and they were not mailed in the normal official envelopes, and therefore they got opened, and because they were opened, they had to be thrown away because that's what the Republican lawsuit, that was the ruling that the Republicans won in their lawsuit. It's mind-boggling. They did it themselves. And then they went on national television and complained, and they're still talking about it over on Fox News. Trump was talking about it yesterday in his rally. It's just like, insane. Anyhow, John in Lamont, Illinois. Hey, John, what's up?
Hi, this morning I read an interesting article in the Chicago Tribune entitled, "Appellate Court Halts Extension to Count Wisconsin Absentee Ballots." Originally, all the Wisconsin absentee ballots were to be counted by Election Day, but the Democratic Party and League of Women Voters sued, and then a district court judge said, okay, we'll give you 6 additional days to count the absentee ballots as long as they're postmarked by Election Day. Well, that went further, and just yesterday, a district judge overturned that and said all the ballots need to be counted by Election Day. The article then said this could go to the 7th Circuit and the Supreme Court. And even though the Tribune didn't put 2 and 2 together, I'm thinking, who serves on the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals in Chicago? Amy Coney Barrett.
Amy.
Yeah, so what a test case this could be. Will she recuse herself? Maybe she can't hear this because it'll be in the middle of the Senate hearings. Or will she be a Trump toady and deny Wisconsin voters the right to vote?
Yeah. Well, and when it gets to the Supreme Court, will she be there? I'm guessing she would recuse herself from this if for no other reason that she's busy, in Washington, D.C., shaking hands and making friends. But
that's assuming she would do the right thing, like all Republicans do the right thing.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, you're right. That's never a safe assumption. John, thank you. Yeah. Thanks for the heads up on that. I was unaware of that. Andrew is it Bitley, Michigan?
It's Bitely.
Bitely. Okay.
Bitely,
so what's
Michigan.
up, Andrew?
Okay,
I grew up in Michigan. I've never heard of Bitely. Where is it?
That's north of White Cloud, south of Baldwin. On M30.
Oh wow! I picked apples in White Cloud. I actually owned a lot in White Cloud, just a little tiny lot that I bought at a tax auction for $15 when I was like 13 years old. And, it's a whole long story, but it's, anyway, yeah, okay.
Hold on to it, Tom.
Yeah, well, no, I sold it to somebody for $500, like 3 decades ago or something. But anyway, what's up, Andrew?
You already made a killing. Okay, look, let's check this out.
Yeah.
I think that there's a potential a Republican dirty trick tactic going on, and I hope it doesn't go nationwide. But the county of Newaygo, Michigan, the Republican clerk there sent out defective ballots, mail-in or absentee ballots, whatever you want to call them. This is largely a seasonal resident area. They got a lot of snowbirds up here. Some of them.
Yeah, I'm real familiar with Newaygo. My dad grew up in Newaygo. That's why White Cloud.
Some of these people logically would have gotten their ballots, casted them, and gone about their business. Now the word comes out that those ballots were sent out by mistake. Somebody's name was left off of them. Some judge or something. So we're going to invalidate all of those ballots, and we're going to send you new ballots. We're going to start sending them out as of Thursday. My thing is, what happened to those ballots that have already been cast and deposited, and people who may not be paying close attention to what's going on out there, they're not going to get a corrected ballot in time to cast it. And I mean, it seems like another dirty trick. They pull out all the stops,
Or it could just be a good old-fashioned screw-up. I mean, but I absolutely get what you're saying, Andrew.
Donald Trump, he loves his lawsuits. I think a lawsuit ought to be in order here.
Yeah, this
Some
is
kind of way.
crazy.
If no other
so this is
reason
just
than to get under the skin,
Yeah, this is just in Newaygo County.
I beg your pardon? What'd you say, Tom?
Yeah. I said this is just in Newaygo County.
I just found out at about a half an hour ago, maybe an hour ago. I was going through my news.
But it's only in the county, right? It's just this is only Newaygo County.
In Newaygo, Newaygo County.
Right.
I'm in Merrill Township. Cool. I'm in the northernmost township in that county. Well, we got maybe another one a little north of me, but I mean it's just quite disheartening. And I was just about to cast my ballot. I was going to take it in. Now we'll get into a thing of, am I casting two ballots? Am I casting the one that they sent me? That they failed.
Well, I think obviously you want to wait for the second one to arrive, don't you?
I'm not. I'm definitely going to wait. But I mean, it puts people in a quandary. What are you going to do when you just can't follow the rules and keep moving forward? And I'm thinking that maybe they're doing this across the nation. Republican run clerk.
I think I would have heard about it if it was.
Well, you may hear about it. Just keep listening.
Is it? I'm assuming the county clerk is the person falling on their sword, the one who's taking responsibility for it.
Well, she said, I don't know if he or she. I'm not really sure, but I wouldn't be surprised at anything. They're a crafty bunch.
Yeah,
they can do.
There you go. Those Republicans.
Things.
Okay, Andrew, thank you for the call. Yeah, thank you for the call. That's amazing. I spent the better part of a summer when I was 16 picking apples by the being paid by the lug. As I recall, it was like 50 cents a lug. Being right in the town right next to where he was calling from. Anyhow, we'll be back 45 minutes past the hour.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
More of the news of the day here on the Thom Hartmann Program, exposing the con and conservative. And welcome back. Janine in Atlanta, you think I should not call Amy Barrett a handmaiden? Do I have that right?
Handmaiden, yes. How you doing? I've watched a show, and the title should be Auntie Amy.
Oh, so you're taking that from having watched the Handmaid's Tale TV program?
Yes.
Okay, I have not seen the program. Louise and I watched like the first one or two episodes, and it was so dark. It was like, this is going to give us nightmares, and so we just stopped. So Auntie is the title that's given what to the women in power?
Yes.
So we should call, and so I mean, give me the rationale, Janine, for why I should refer to her as Auntie Amy rather than Handmaiden Amy.
She's in power. Well, an auntie is in power, and an auntie is correction. A handmaiden has like no rights at all, just for baby making. And auntie's in power, like Amy.
Right. So okay. So the handmaidens are basically the fodder for reproduction, and the aunties.
Mm-hmm. They're like the cattle ranchers, and the handmaiden are the cattle.
I got it. And an entirely appropriate metaphor too, I think. Janine, thank you for that. Thank you. I will start calling her Auntie Amy. It's all it's a little more. What is it? Onomatopoeia. It sounds a little better too. So I like that. Thank you very much, Janine. That was great. George in Livingston, Texas. Hey, George, what's up?
Hey, I was just wondering. I'm a vet, and you were talking about those three guys in Mar-a-Lago that were determining what they're going to give the vets for suicide. And my question is, after they get all that money, I'm sure that Trump probably gets a kickback. I'm sure that after he plays golf, he doesn't go and play tiddlywinks with them and just fooled around. He gets money, and that's how he determines everything. That's how he determines who gets put in cages. That's how he determines everything. That's his method. What do you think?
I think you're right, George. We don't have any specific evidence of this outside of the, like the Saudis renting an entire floor of the Trump Hotel, for a week at a time. Governments coming into town and needing one room and buying 20. And, these are like small grifts, small gifts. It amounts to a few $1 million a year that Trump is making, here and there that way. And of course, redirecting American tankers and jet airplanes to little airports in Scotland so that the people can stay at his apartment. But we don't yet have a kind of smoking gun like, Erdogan gave him money in exchange for, stabbing the Kurds in the back, or Putin did, or something like that. And the guys who are running the VA, they're all paying $200,000 a year to Trump for his, or $200,000 initiation fee. Anyway, I'm not sure the annual fees for Mar-a-Lago, and Mar-a-Lago's revenue has certainly gone up. But it would not surprise me.
More than that.
Yeah, it would not surprise me at all if there's a whole bunch of back channel money going on. And I think that this release of his tax returns here, today by the New York Times, or yesterday by the New York Times, is going to be the cork that pops out that pretty soon the whole dam starts to crack. We'll see. George, thanks for the call. On the science revolution this week, Trump never noticed a modern-day American disaster. He's trying to spread the virus as far and wide as possible. We should call this today what history will call it when it looks back on this moment: genocide. David Kraft with the Nuclear Energy Information Service is here. It's time to end Exelon's nuclear hostage crisis. Climate risks are compounding financial challenges for Midwest nuclear plants. Plus, Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist II of Michigan drops by to explain that racism is a public health crisis. Tune into the Science Revolution wherever fine podcasts are available. And welcome back. 10 minutes before the hour. Ama in Harlem, New York. Am I saying your name right?
Yes.
Hey, what's up?
Hi, how are you?
Ama.
I just
Okay.
I had some, thank you, Tom. I had some insight, comments, questions, or correction. I think that the next political debate should be postponed and right in line with the income tax calendar date because of the fact-checking. So honesty is
because of the tax revelations. Is that what you're talking about?
That and or the scrutiny of like honesty. Honesty is the best policy. So make that the best Cinderella hour, and we might just get another Democratic president.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, Amma. It's not going to happen, though. I guarantee you, it's going to. The debate is going to happen tomorrow. Whether Trump, tries to pee in a cup in front of all of us or not, I don't know. But it's going to get. But I get your point. I absolutely do, and I can't disagree with it. Nicole in Denver. Hey, Nicole, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if we lose Social Security insurance, we'll also lose disability insurance. And to my knowledge, there's no private insurance policy that you can buy at any price that'll give you long-term disability insurance, guaranteed income for life, and cover your health care.
You're correct on all points. And that's the thing, when I talk to young people, and they say, well, I don't care about Social Security. It's not going to be there when I get old anyway. I'm like, Social Security is covering you right now. If you're 17 years old, you've got a policy that will provide for you for the rest of your life if you get in a car accident and you end up paralyzed, for example, as has happened to a friend of mine.
Yes,
so,
and there's no private insurance policy that you can buy to replace that. So just wanted to remind your viewers how important Social Security is.
Amen. Amen. Well done, Nicole. Thank you. Thank you very much. Roy in Greensboro, North Carolina. Hey, Roy, what's up?
Tom, I have the solution for getting us on universal health care. Okay, one, everybody says this, just back up the age from 65 to 62, 60 every year, but this is the most important thing. Go by occupation. The important, difficult, dangerous jobs we have getting people for that foreigners are doing now. If you are 5 years in construction or forestry or fishing or farming, you are on Medicare. Do it and we'll gradually get everybody on. I figure it'll take 10 years if you go back up the age and do the occupation thing, adding occupations where Americans are needed to do the jobs and their physical jobs, all the physical jobs.
Roy, that's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. It would be a relatively simple tweak, I believe, to the Medicare law, and I'm basing this on Robert Ball, the guy who wrote that law, saying back in the 1960s that it would be a relatively minor tweak to change the age of eligibility of 65. Now Reagan has raised it up to 67, but whatever, to change it from 65 down to 0. And so I think it would be a relatively small tweak to the law to say that if you are designated an essential worker during the pandemic, which would be people who work in grocery stores, people who are, working in hospitals, people who are on the front lines, the delivery people, the Uber drivers, all of these folks, if you have been designated an essential worker during the pandemic, you are eligible to join Medicare for the rest of your life, regardless of your age, right now.
That's the essential principle. I should be running it. I also have other ideas. There should be zones, not by states. When states get a hold of this federal money, there's so much waste, like insurance. It should be like New England and the Mid-Atlantic states.
Doing things regionally.
Regionally,
I'm with
exactly.
you. Roy, that's absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much for the call, and thanks for sharing that. Julie in Auburn, Washington. Hey, Julie, what's up?
Hi, thanks for taking my call. So just like Clinton said, keep it simple, it's about the election. Trump supporters, the only thing that resonates with them is race and holding on with a tight fist, whatever last vestiges of white privilege that they have. And they don't care about Russia. They don't care about his taxes. They don't care about the Supreme Court. They don't care about health care. They don't even care about COVID. They just care about Trump, the white supremacist, getting reelected. And it just boggles my mind.
I think that's solidly half, and it might even be 3/4 or 7/8 of the white people, particularly the white men. But white men have no monopoly on being racist relative to white women of his base. The question is, how do you address that, Julie? We have 30 seconds. Do you have a suggestion? What would you say to somebody who actually believes in white supremacy?
You can't. You can't. The only thing we could do is mobilize the other side and flood and get him out, because they were hushed, for decades, and then he came out and he gave them a spotlight. He's like,
and now they're all over the place.
And now they're all over the place.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Julie. I got to run, but I'm absolutely with you. The one thing I would say, though, is that you can educate their children. And this is what Trump is trying to stop. He doesn't want us teaching the history of slavery in our schools. But we can educate all of our children, which would include the children of the white racists. And I think that would go a long step. So anyhow, thanks for being with us. Get out there, get active, tag You're It. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a great afternoon.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
For millions of people around the globe.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are CarShield, America's #1 auto protection. CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. The Clean Phone Pro, phone sanitizer and charger. More info at thenewdealshop.com. Boll and Branch Sheets, crafted for the common good. More info at Boll, B-O-L-L, and branch.com, code TOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More information at expressvpn.com/Tom. And Teeth, T-E-E-F, Smarter Pet Dental Health. For more information, teethhealth.com, code TOM. Bye.